On everyone's list of favorite Sega games, you'll hear things like Comix Zone, Sonic, ToeJam and Earl, and Earthworm Jim. But as a kid growing up, I must have had like 50 Sega games, and 90% of the people I would tell about them have never heard of them. These games went unnoticed by many, but were incredibly fun nonetheless. With that in mind, and in spite of the fact that I may end up sounding like a gaming hipster, I give you my top 5 favorite Sega games you may not have heard of.
5.
Coming in at number 5, we have Mutant Chronicles Doom Troopers. Mutant Chronicles was actually first a pen and paper RPG about a post-apocalyptic future where humans have made their exodus from Earth to nearby planets, and of course there's mutants. It was a pretty standard side-scrolling shooter that could be played with 2 players, one a machine gun-wielding marine, and the other a double pistol-toting steampunk-looking dude. Not only was it a lot of fun, but it's one of the goriest Sega games that I can remember, and for that it earns that number 5 spot.
4.
At number 4 is The Ooze. The Ooze is the story of a scientist who discovers an evil plot by his company to release toxic gas to infect the public and leverage the only cure to get rich. Unfortunately, you're found with this information and exposed to the gas yourself. Instead of killing you though, you just turn into an ooze blob. A vicious ooze blob who's out for vengeance and to make yourself whole again. The gameplay was pretty cool, your life simply just how much ooze you'd collected on your body, but even better was the soundtrack, especially in the first stage. If they're not rolling that music, they should definitely be doing that right about now. Earning the honor of the number 3 spot on my list is Decap Attack. Decap Attack was actually based on a Japanese game called Magical Hat Flying Turbo Adventure, and I'm not quite sure what that has to do with you being a mummy that's summoned to stop an evil demon army and eventually try to become human, but that was the name of the game in Japan for some reason. In Decap Attack, you killed enemies by jumping on them, throwing your skull at them if you had one, or punching them with your eyeballs. It was a whole lot of fun. You could also collect various potions that would give you different bonuses. I mostly have fond memories of it though because it was the first game that I had ever beaten on my own without using any cheat codes.
2.
Most of the time when people think of best movie games, they can't really come up with a good one, but one game that nobody ever mentions is Warlock. Warlock is based on a cheesy 80s movie where the protagonist has to stop an evil warlock from collecting 6 runestones that will grant him ultimate power, or some 80s bullshit like that.
Channel me a spirit.
But the game was actually amazing, with incredibly cool boss fights, an amazing atmosphere and soundtrack, as well as really fun platforming and special powers. You were followed around by an orb that you could control to attack enemies or help you pick up items. It really was a phenomenal game, and if you haven't played it, I recommend going back and trying it out. For being the most kick-ass movie game, it earns my number 2 spot.
1.
Finally, at the number 1 spot is a game called Kid Chameleon. Kid Chameleon is the story of an arcade machine that begins trapping everyone that plays it inside unless they can actually beat the game, which nobody can until Kid Chameleon comes along. As far as the gameplay goes, it's similar to other side-scrolls where you have to jump on your enemies' heads to kill them. However, in Kid Chameleon, you can pick up 1 of 10 different power-ups, each one with its own special powers and life totals. You can play as anything from a tank that shot skulls at people, to a knight, to Jason Voorhees, who they couldn't actually get the rights for, so they just called them maniacs. It was a lot of fun to play with really tough bosses and challenge levels. To this day, I have not beaten it. Well, that's going to do it for my top 5 Sega games you may not have heard of. Make sure you message me in the comments or on Twitter @SoHinky and let me know of any obscure games that I may have left out. I'll see you guys next time.